What's good, my people? Welcome to another episode of the Tech in Motion podcast. I'm your host, Will Reed, and we're here to help small business owners optimize their businesses with practical tech solutions by interviewing experts in the field, CEOs, tech professionals, people that are actually doing the do and leveraging tech to optimize their own businesses, and they're going to give you the game today. So I am here with a very special guest, Rich Peoples. He is a fractional CTO, serial entrepreneur, and he is a marketing and SaaS guru, former Google and Facebook advertising executive. And I just am so excited that he's here to help us, to give us some insights, to give us some tips, some tricks, and help us in our own businesses. So without further ado, Rich Peoples is in the building. How's it going, Rich?
Woo, 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 woo. Like Arsenio Hall.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate the introduction.
Yeah, that's Arsenio Hall. That's a throwback. I think most of the audience might be a little too young to remember Arsenio Hall.
Right,
But,
right. Telling our age.
Yeah, so again, excited to have you here. And so I know my audience might not be as familiar with you as I am. So I want to give you an opportunity to share kind of your background and your journey and how you got to the point where you are today.
No doubt, man. Let's get into it. Short story. Got my start in digital, the digital world ecosystem space, working with Google. About a decade ago, Google was doing some heavy recruiting to certify, train those who had a knack for their new platform they were releasing, which was called AdWords. Now it's called Google Ads. They would send out a postcard to small business owners. Business owners would call in, say, hey, I got a coupon in the mail for $100 if I spend $100 with you guys. And typically, what I would do is hop on the phone with those small business executives and walk them through the setup of the legacy dashboard for Google Ads, which today it's had so many other iterations. And then they certified us in the process. And I sort of just built my appetite for all things digital during that transition, having been moved from consulting business owners and business executives to then consulting agencies. And so I've been working with agencies to help them deploy the best top shelf solutions since that time period. And then from there, I went and did some consulting and set up a couple of departments around digital marketing, digital transformation. Now, after the pandemic, I've transitioned to more of an AI automation approach. So during the pandemic, I kind of saw things, happening as they were, and then AI came out, ChatGPT, that is, and then of course Google Cloud started participating in this space. AWS was already in this space. So to me, I was like, hey, maybe it makes sense to invest in myself by becoming certified on these platforms. It's one thing to go in and be the architect and set up systems and solutions and stand them up. It's another to invest in yourself, get certified, licensed, to be able to implement and be able to take on bigger whales, bigger clients for their projects. And so that's kind of where I'm at today, fast forwarding. And then to summarize, lastly is here recently is SaaS. So systems as a service, software as a service. Typically we have to spend months of deployment, design, creating concepts, and then having wireframes and trying to figure out how to build a digital product on the cloud. And There's lots of money that goes into that. And I'm excited about what's happening today because what I'm playing with these days is an AI automation platform that's white labeled to be able to deploy your own SaaS agnostically. So it doesn't matter what niche you're in. And so the whole SaaSpreneur, I think I'm wearing a shirt, but SaaSpreneur movement is I don't have to spend a lot of money for development. Neither do I have to do a lot of coding because it's just no code environment to be able to deploy my own subscription software to a tribe or community of business owners and then get subscriptions built around that in less than 90 days. Okay.
Wow.
And without breaking the bank. So that's what I've been doing these days is helping companies to deploy their own custom software or system as a solution for their company.
Man, that is an amazing journey. And then just as you brought it into today, I think that the ability for us, especially entrepreneurs that are just getting started, it might be he might be a solopreneur to where it's just one person, one guy, one lady that has, they don't know necessarily all the ins and outs of business. They know their side of from a technical side, what services, what products they provide and what they create. However, being able to bring that to market, being able to optimize and automate certain processes is very, very key because as you mentioned, if you're just getting started and maybe you have limited funds and you had limited staff, what you're talking about is a solution that kind of solves both problems where, hey, you can spend a minimal amount, not have to break the bank, but also automate things to where you can basically duplicate yourself when you're just getting started and you haven't expanded the business and had enough revenue to where you can actually afford to bring on additional people to specialize in those particular tasks. So I wanted you to go, can you help us understand kind of what's going on in the background? So like, there obviously like you're leveraging a tech stack to be able to provide automation and being able to address multiple services and integrate those into one. So can you talk to the audience and kind of let them know what that tech stack consists of that's able to give you the ability to provide that service that you're providing to entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. Maybe I can add some context. Maybe Fisher Price this with a brand we all know, just so we have some continuity. Tesla. When
Okay.
Tesla, like when I say that name, we think about the person, Elon, and we think about all his employees, his engineers, his product managers building out a brand new ecosystem to pave the path for EV. And at the time, I think we're almost at 20 years now. And now the world is just seeing, we're seeing massive adoption. And I heard him say recently at the shareholders meeting, he said, people think we are a car company. We're actually a software company. He goes,
Right.
we're deploying and building software around the cars, vehicles, the solar panels, even the agents, the robotic agents they're building, it's all powered by software.
Right.
And so it's like makeshift mindset. It's like, wow, I never thought that a car company is actually a software company. And he says, now we're going to be deploying more resources, shareholder money, into building out our own custom software to manufacture the cars, to update the software in the cars so they drive better, perform better, et cetera. And that's kind of what we are doing today in the terms of building out a modern business. A modern business is not just any type of business. It's a software or digital first business. To participate today and get the most out of the advantages we have competitively, as well as operationally, we have to integrate and adopt some type of AI automation to be able to compete. It's one thing to get all the revenue, right, and have stability and profitability. It's another thing to how do we then reduce the amount of all of the friction in our company so that we're running frictionless to one day, you don't even have to be in your company to operate it. And so that's kind of what it looks like on the back end, is stepping into a meeting or an intensive and asking a question, the hard questions. Are you overwhelmed? Okay, if so, how? Are your systems outdated? If so, how? And do you feel like you are spending way more than you should, right? So you're over budget. And if so, where do you feel that pressure at? And then it's reaching into today's modern pool of solutions and saying, okay, what solutions, if you could wave a magic wand, what solutions would you use to operate and run your company today? And well, believe it or not, like tapping into that part of the brain for most business executives, they go, man, I've been meaning to have this conversation for quite some time because
Right.
I know my systems are outdated. I know I'm overspending. And most importantly, I know I'm overwhelmed. I'm working way more than 40 hours. So it's our job to then look at a map and say, what can we toss out or do without? And then what are some of the basic requirements to then systemize these processes that you are manually doing every day? And then over time, you have somewhat of a Tesla. It doesn't take you 20 years, right? But literally in less than 90 days, your entire business suite technologically could be automated if the right integrations are taking place. And my job is to, as the architect, is to blueprint, build that out, test it, and then deploy it one piece at a time. And that's kind of what it looks like on the back end without getting into too much of what the tech are capable of doing, the tech components. It's mainly just having a conversation around vision and around transformation and around innovation. So you can survive and then have predictable profitability around that in the future.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. I think that lots of businesses are, to your point, you're mentioning using old technology or old systems or old processes. But I know that a lot of businesses as well are, they're doing a lot of manual tasks that take up a lot of time, which is a lot of the overhead. And like when you start hiring people, and there you got sole jobs that are built around manual tasks where it's repetitive. It's something that like, hey, if I go and every day we release a blog post. And so somebody goes in and then they go to 2 or 3 websites and they get the latest news, and then they go and then they take those news articles and then they summarize some key concepts and get a they generate a review, and then they did post that review, and then they try to get a topic, and then they get a thumbnail and get some pictures and some illustrations to add to it, and then they post it to 5 or 6 different platforms: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then they try to analyze some analytics. So, but like, you think what you're talking about is part of it is automating all of that to where, okay, that's something that which 3 websites you go to. You know that you're going to do a summary. You know that you're going to post at these XYZ platforms. You're going to have to create images. Why not just build an automation to be able to do that at the click, or do it automatically, right at the click of a button, or hey, all you do is just click run, right? So I think, again, so especially when we talk about trying to streamline operations, when we talk about like new entrepreneurs, that person that's doing that for that business is that entrepreneur, that small business owner, is just that one thing. And so that's taking 2 hours out of that person's day, where you're translating a 2-hour multi-step task or process, and then you're changing it into a like, hey, my task is just to click this button because I've automated it, which I think is amazing. And being able to help businesses identify, where they're like, again, you can be that sense of being overwhelmed. that leads into it, that sense of being over budget to where maybe you like historically you pay a marketing firm to do all of that for you, right? And you're talking about thousands of dollars per month where you can build an automation for maybe hundreds or a couple $1,000s on the front end, but then have that be something that is a system and a process that you implement that you can repeat, and again it's on autopilot, and now you don't have that perpetual cost that you have to spend, which I think is amazing. And leveraging AI to its fullest capacity, again, for aspiring entrepreneurs, new small business owners, I think is a game changer, and it is a force multiplier. So again, I fully am on board, and your concept around, again, like we entrepreneurs need to kind of pull the lens back and not necessarily look at what they're specifically doing, what a product or service, but look at their like, hey, we need to start integrating software and technology and AI into the business, and look at ourselves like, hey, we're a software AI automation business that is producing this product, right? And so how do we best leverage software and AI to be able to optimize that process? So again, just I love what you're doing, and looking forward to how this can help small business owners do the same thing, and multiply their efforts. I wanted to so you, back when you were in Google and Facebook as an senior account executive, you had like millions of dollars of basically of ad spend under your management, right? And you talked very, very extensively about just the concept of being a consultant and coming into these businesses and being able to advise them. And there's that dynamic between the leveraging ad spend versus trying to build these automations so that you can do more of an organic growth model and brand awareness to get your product and services out there. Can you talk about when you're consulting with companies and a small business owner is trying to make that decision, hey, do I invest my money in ad spend, or do I invest my money in building these automations and these systems and processes, and integrating maybe a little bit more software and technology on our side, on the business owner side? Can you talk about that dynamic of consulting and helping a small business owner make the right decision for their company and organization?
100%. Helping is being able to move them from an environment where there's lots of friction to a frictionless environment at a fraction of the cost. And in order to spend a fraction of the cost, you have to be able to measure, performance. And so
Right.
consulting, I don't know, 10 to 20 different businesses in one day, these are 30-minute to 1 hour phone calls back then. You begin to information gather, and you begin to say, what are the things that I'm hearing in these interactions with business owners that they have the biggest appetite for? And it really is measuring the performance of what's working and what's not working. And if it's not working, remove it.
Right.
And it sounds simple, but the way that we would carve out a path of strategy, that strategy would be built around, again, like what's going to cause your customer journey, number one, to be frictionless. Like number two, what's going to cause your employee onboarding to be frictionless. Number three, what's going to cause, revenue cycles to be frictionless. And where revenue cycles are not frictionless, that requires some attention around marketing, branding, automation. And typically when we walk into these environments, the salesperson is not talking to the marketing person. Marketing is not talking to sales. Sales and marketing aren't talking to chief revenue or chief financial officer. You have all these silos. Then there's another part where you have I've seen now environments where they have a data analyst full-time, paying good money or her good money to
Yeah.
measure all the performance coming in. So we know what's going out and how much we know is being spent per employee. And then also how much revenue is being made per employee. So to get to a point to where we know our multiple, to get to a point to where we know revenue per employee, to get to a point to where we know cost per acquisition or cost per customer, CAC, we need to better understand the numbers. And I'd like to preach the gospel of stop guessing and just measure your performance. Okay. Not a roundabout, not an estimate, but an exact number. And then we can deploy strategy and we can deploy systems, solutions, software around a number. And now we're data driven. We're not guessing this. We're not going off of our gut. We're not going off of Harvard grad school education. We're going off of data. And surprisingly, well, I've found that even guys like ourselves in tech don't track the data. It's astonishing.
100%.
Right? Like I can tell how well you're performing in 5 minutes of a conversation just by asking numerical questions. And most of us aren't going to know, right? And so it's not about just measuring revenue. Like I'm not asking how much money you're making. Like I'm asking, can you predict what's going to happen in the next quarter? Can you predict what's going to happen in the next cycle? And are you going to go over budget? And are you going to be overwhelmed? And like measuring those things matter because ultimately, here's where I found the appetite to be. Hey, like if John Doe, I got you spending, $2 million a year on Google Ads, great. I convinced you to spend money with Google and make a $2 million investment over 12 months. How did I do that? I did so by putting together the analytics, tracking conversions, tracking the KPIs that matter the most to your company. And then from there, John Doe, what would you do if we were to wave a magic wand and the numbers got exactly where you wanted it? And you find, Will, this pivot in a conversation of, I would take off more. I would spend more time with my family. I would travel with my wife and we would work from laptops. And so they begin to imagine differently how they use their time because no longer are the days of I have to work 60-hour weeks in order to yield this type of result. If we just start tracking the numbers that matter the most.
Yeah, what I immediately thought of as you were explaining that was, and I completely agree that most business owners, especially when they're starting out, don't track the numbers. So understanding what am I doing that is generating the most leads? What activity am I doing after I get the leads that is driving them to a product or service that we have?
Right.
What portions of my website are getting the most clicks? What if I'm currently running ads, which ads are working? Is it the Facebook ads, or is it the LinkedIn, or is it YouTube? Is it Instagram? Right. So understanding where that's coming in, I fully agree that most starting out don't track those numbers. They're just trying to get everything out there, get everything started rolling, and then it further exasperates itself by, like, you actually, if stuff starts working and you start getting business, like, oh snap, like everything is great, but you don't know if you got that lead from Facebook. You don't know if you got that lead from just a Google search and where they found your website and found their product or service and clicked and then booked a session with you. So again, 100% agree. If we don't understand the numbers, we can't make things predictable for the future. And again, like you talked about, that is using the data and the analytics, understanding the numbers to predict what's going to happen reasonably. Again, hey, we measure the past and then we use that as a guide to predict the future. And so if you can't predict the future, then you don't know how best to spend your dollars and help. when you come in and you explain how you're coming in and helping them understand the numbers. And then once we understand the numbers, now what's the most effective strategy? And what I thought of too was the like the Pareto principle, to where, 80% of the revenue of an organization is derived from probably 20% of the products and services that they have. So understanding the numbers helps you know, like, hey, 80% of our revenue is coming from these two products.
Right.
So instead of us spreading out our effort evenly across all of our products, maybe we need to devote more resources into those products that are generating most revenue so that we can optimize that. So
Yeah.
again, like you're talking about KPIs, you're talking about building that strategy around what's working, and then using that to identify, all right, cool, what's the most effective method of optimizing to like exponentially grow what we're doing. So I love that perspective, and I appreciate you for shedding light on that aspect of it.
Yeah, if I can share, I'm in a community now to make this practical, where they are advising business owners. This is a SaaS based or SaaS driven, I might even say SaaS led community, where we're thinking like systems, solutions, and then automated. But there's those who are consulting gyms or advising doctors or attorneys. And they'll start off by just simply automating, say, missed call text back. I've never thought I needed an automation, let alone if there was technology to text someone back, especially if they're a lead or a customer, if they call my company. That's typically a person, the receptionist, the gatekeeper, the assistant, who's making that phone call, going through a call log. And now AI, in less than a day or less than a week, we could say, hey, what phone solutions or VoIP solutions do you currently use? We'll use, this solution or that solution. Okay, if we could replace that at a lower cost, and if it could perform these things and replace all of this extra weight, would that be of interest to you? And we demonstrate the tech, and almost immediately there's an aha, like, wow, if I can automate just a simple process of my receptionist doesn't have to come into work the next day to call back a whole bunch of people. We now have a 24/7 assistant that can receive a call and text someone back. What else can I do with that workflow? Well, we could immediately place that conversation into a text powered by AI. We call it conversation AI. So AI can now have conversations versus 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that was a person. And then most people at this point, they go, oh, I think I'm gonna lose my job. I don't think people lose their job because someone still has to prompt the engine.
Right.
Someone still has to prompt and train the robotics that's happening, the automation in those instances until we get it right. And then what else can we now do? So now where we used to build a phone tree, we now build a text tree, and we get conversations going at multiple instances within the same time period.
Right.
So now, Bank of America, that's saying, okay, we're going to remove the tellers and we're going to integrate Erica if you're a Bank of America user, right? And Erica can now help 1 million people at one time and reply the way we want her to reply in every instance without Erica calling in sick.
Right.
Or without Erica having to be trained, pulled aside off the phone, say, we need to train you, costing the company more money.
Yeah.
So in that instance, almost instantly, we can replace just that one automation. And it opens up the door to like so many other things that we can automate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just one example of how our community, right, is advising companies, right, trying to figure out how we can help reduce everything that we've been discussing, and then measure that to say, hey, this conversation bot is killing it, right? It booked 18 meetings this week. Wow, a robot did that. Yes, because we
Right.
prompted it correctly. In every instance, it knows to find a day on your calendar. It knows what calendar to book the meeting on. It knows what time zone to schedule that meeting, etc. And so now they see instant ROI in making the investment in the right solutions. Yeah, like that's just one instance of many instances. And then one last thing, you said it creates an opportunity for the advisor to then productize some of the strategy. And so, I'm creating products now built around some of these pain points and some of these challenges. So, what I mentioned, the missed call text back, that's just one product of a bigger suite of AI automation products to help accompany businesses that have the appetite for that type of growth.
Yeah.
So yeah, I digress.
No, no, I love it. And I never even thought about how when you have a call center, you have a physical employee that can only have one conversation at a time. But leveraging AI and especially when you got like missed calls, because like you only have a certain number of receptionists, you have a certain number of people, even if you had a call center, you still got limited capacity if you're dealing with humans. And so when they somebody's waiting, you know, they don't have to, that reduces the wait time if they're able to have they call and they're not able to get a hold of anybody, but they automatically start get a text message and they're able to generate a text conversation with an AI chatbot. I and while I'm talking about it, I'm thinking of Gen Zers that don't like talking to people. Like they'd rather text and text and text and text and use their thumbs to have the conversation as opposed to having a live voice interaction with somebody, especially with somebody they don't know. Right. So you're multiplying the capability to have multiple conversations at the same time.
Yep.
And you're also better engaging if you're actually targeting that Gen Z market. But the other part I was building to was I think that receptionist may get intimidated by the fact that an organization may be introducing this because like, oh, well, like what will I be here for? Like, yeah, it now they don't have to have that conversation, but then what do they do? Like, I mean, they can shift to doing some other work. However, what I've been trying to what I like to instill in people that have career fields where you have automation that may threaten what you've been doing, like that manual task that you've been doing, I challenge them to start learning prompt engineering so that they're the person that is training the AI on what to do. Who better than the receptionist who's had all these multiple conversations with clients, potential customers, with existing customers to be able to direct them in the right direction, to be able to schedule, appointments and all that. The AI, when you get it, it doesn't know what to do. It needs somebody to train and teach the AI what to do. When this question gets asked, what is the response or what are the response options that are available that you need to make a selection from? And then based off of that response, what happens next? What is a typical next action that takes place? Somebody has to train the AI to be able to do that. So my challenge to people that are in those types of career fields, don't be threatened by AI and think, oh, well, I guess I need to go and find another job. No, like make yourself a better
Yeah.
practitioner of what you're doing by being the person that like has now figured out how to leverage AI and then use that to have a new skill set to where you're not obsolete. You're the one that is teaching the AI what to do. And as you start integrating new things, again, the AI doesn't train itself. It can get more information and then be able to be a little bit more predictive. But it's still, when it gets introduced a new thing, like, hey, you're training that AI is like, hey, here's a black square and here's a white square. And then
Mhm.
those are the only two options it knows. Okay, eventually it's going to be like, hey, that's a black square and that's a white square.
Mhm.
You bring a blue square into it, well, like, well, I haven't been taught what a blue
Right.
square is.
Right.
So I'm going to say it's a black square. It's like, no, that's not a black square AI. That is a blue square. So now, and so again, there still is a requirement for human interaction with the AI integration process and the AI training, and optimizing the AI to get the best results. So again, I just want to challenge people to again, be more embracive, be open to learning new things, because this gives you a new skill set and makes you not obsolete, and makes you even a better asset to the organization that you're operating in. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, no, I did not even think about the ability to have multiple conversations at the same time. That is an amazing concept to be able to integrate, right?
Yeah, and it's happening, at scale and at speed. Yeah, again, is a perfect no, but if we are leaning into this, right, leaning into this past, into the future, in terms of strategy and investment, uh, I would say we're leaning in mostly to just helping us to work less and get more done.
Right.
We all walk into environments where we work on things we'd rather be working on something else
Yeah.
than the ones that we're working on. Um, and typically speaking, we try to staff that weakness. We try to staff that gap with a human being. But there's some things that we can hand on over to a conversation AI bot, or
Right.
there's some things we can hand over to an automation workflow. And so we try to identify, those gaps throughout the relationship of advising, and how can we get more with less at a
Right.
fraction of the cost, frictionless. And so, another thing that came to mind, that people automate, just thinking even with Elon Musk, where he's integrating these AI robots. Um, they're not building the cars, but they are unpacking the boxes of batteries and
Right.
parts, where a human being would sit there and just open a box and load it onto, some type of assembled conveyor belt. Now a robot can do that. And
Yep.
so now, if anything, people are increasing their value to the company. And so, yeah, it's not a threat. I definitely think it's an advantage, And one of the ways that we even prompt, say, conversation AI, we go to your website. On your website, most websites, you'll have a frequently asked questions
Right.
tab.
Yep.
Most do, right? And we'll take just those 5 questions or 20 questions on your frequently asked question page, and we will train the conversation AI how to have a conversation around those frequently asked questions.
Yep.
And it's just small things like that, right? Where this is something easily integratable if you just have an open mind to it. Yeah.
Yep. 100%. Um, I want to shift a little bit, because I know, again, just going back to just trying to, the one of the major problems when an organization and a entrepreneur, a small business is just getting started, is getting new clients. And then in order to get new clients, they have to know you exist, right? So getting in front of them in the places where they're at. And then once you're able to start building momentum, how you then continue your growth to where it makes sense. And I know you're familiar with and implement a concept of what's called growth hacking,
Hmm.
and in terms of like growth hacking and then like client acquisition.
Hmm.
So can you just explain to the listeners, and also to me, I know of it, but just the concept of growth hacking and like how you implement that to help optimize the client acquisition.
Sure. The best way to summarize or explain this, is in one word. It's called a funnel.
Okay.
And I have like a little mini funnel I use in my kitchen when I'm trying to take a boiled tea. I like to boil green tea every day, and then the way I get into like a little pitcher I use is to a funnel. And as practical as that sounds, we like to have the same approach when it comes to marketing, or when it comes to growth hacking, or when it comes to acquisition, whatever or whichever term you prefer. It's about where's all the attention at from in terms of scale, in terms of volume. So like right now, we know that, believe it or not, YouTube probably has the most active traffic because there's people who come once and they never come back, right? So that could be channels like Amazon, right? You're looking shopping, you purchase something, you get what you need, and maybe you go back, maybe you don't, maybe you go to a different vendor. YouTube, people go to YouTube and they watch for hours, sometimes up to 4 hours a day, whether it be gaming, whether it be skill hacking, you're learning a new skill, you're learning how to hack your car, you're learning how to hack crypto. And YouTube is a good example of just one place where you could growth hack right now by just recording videos of what you're currently doing every day, the day in the life of Will Reed for Better Every Day. And maybe you make 30 days of what it looks like to be in your shoes. And what happens is you even have people who are surgeons by trade who are taking cameras behind closed doors with the permission of the administration and
Mhm.
recording what it looks like at every stage of their operation and trade. And they record it. And some guys now have over 2 million subscribers. And you know what? Instead of focusing on, I got to be on Facebook, I got to be on LinkedIn, I got to be on TikTok, I got to be on all these different channels, some guys are just focusing on one specific channel. Okay.
Right.
So if you tried all these different channels, pay attention, again, measuring acquisition, growth hacking. Okay, people are paying attention to me more on the most viewed channel, which is YouTube. Okay.
Right.
Now, if you're having lots of success on Facebook, maybe you should stick with Facebook. If you're having lots of success on LinkedIn, maybe you stick with LinkedIn because that's where your audience is. But for many of us, it's probably going to be YouTube. That's where we start. And on YouTube, you can do things like not only record videos and day in the life of, but you could potentially also blog inside of the description of the video that you're releasing. Now, Rich, what do you mean by blog? So, for instance, if you said that funnel, the top of that funnel, where all the attention is YouTube, and now I'm going to record 30 videos, and it's going to go into a playlist where it's day in the life of Better Every Day. I can then go back into every single video unit and write where I would have to go out and make a website, scrap the website, and just blog and put your content, your written content, inside of YouTube videos. And that will help with even ranking at the top for specific searches or search queries you're looking to be visible for. And so then, like, what's the impact of that, Rich, at the bottom of the funnel? The bottom of the funnel, you go, hey, I'm glad you made it to our discovery meeting. I'm glad you booked some time with me, paid for a product. Where did you discover us at? I watched all your YouTube videos and I fell in love with what you do. And I want to learn more. And now you see that acquisition skill is working. Your growth hacking method is working. Now, if you apply that same principle to every channel or whatever channel is working for you, where you start making content and then you start connecting to those who are watching your content, and
Mhm.
then integrating all of your links and offers in that content, you'll find that, wow, I'm participating in a great acquisition funnel without having to do all the things other people are doing. And so acquisition and growth hacking is really about not trying to be everywhere. It's trying to be in the one place you're getting the most results so that you grow from there. And the biggest mistake, if 10 of us started posting content on 5 different platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, 2 of us are going to be successful because 2 to 3 of us decided, I'm not going to focus on 10 things, I'm going to focus on 1 or 2. And that is the trick. Literally, that's the trick. The highest paid coaches are going to tell you, where are you getting most of your success from? Focus on that channel. And that becomes your acquisition engine.
Got it. Yeah. And this is, I think it goes back to knowing your numbers, right? Knowing the data. So when you know the data and you take, you could already be on multiple platforms, but where you tied it in was when we're booking the appointments, we have to ask the question, how did you hear about us? Otherwise, it's just a guess, and we have no data to make a decision on where to put our focus. And then going back into like what you were talking about is like, hey, what's working? Where's the attention? And then let's make our next decision on optimization on how do we best add just fuel to the fire's already burning. But if nobody's monitoring the fire, or nobody, if we don't have a fire department, we don't have a fire alarm, we don't have a fire monitoring system, we don't know where to send the fire department, right? And so that one question at the point of engagement with the client, where you're asking, how did you hear about us, is that fire alarm, right? And it's like, oh, you're over in Facebook. So, hey, like, oddly enough, most of our leads are coming from Facebook. Whatever we're doing over there is working. How do we throw gasoline on this to make this so like this? Let's burn the whole neighborhood down, right? So,
Right.
I love how all of these approaches build, or all of these tactics build on each other to where now this thing just keeps, it grows and it builds momentum, as opposed to trying to do multiple things at once, especially in the start. Once we start getting a little bit better at what we're doing, and we start building automation to where now we can kind of focus our attention and free up some time so that we can go to other things and start generating other channels, or focusing on other methods, so we can, like, we want to have multiple streams of revenue. We want to have multiple points to where we're engaging our clients. And, if something isn't working, it's not that it won't work. It's just we got to put a little bit more thought and effort into it. When we talk about YouTube, there's long form videos where you're doing, some people they'll post, a 2-3 hour interview. And their audience loves that, but you can't put a 2-3 hour interview on Instagram. It's just not gonna necessarily work. That is more, at least when you're starting off, you don't even have the capability to go longer than 3 minutes on, or I think it's TikTok. You can't go longer than 3 minutes when you're starting out, right? So, and then you got YouTube Shorts, where, hey, this is just up to 60 seconds of just a quick, hey, this a quick bit of content that quickly grabs your attention, and then adds some value, or relays a quick concept, and then you're out of there, right? Same thing, like when you're scrolling Instagram, like you got like 3 to 5 seconds to capture someone's attention. Otherwise, they're scrolling up, right? And so it takes a different approach and skill set, and then the way that you formulate your content matters per platform, right? But you can what I'm also like thinking of is, you can just take it, especially when you're starting off, you can just take that long form content, break it up, and then use that. You recorded it once, but then you break it up into the smaller chunks that are more digestible on different platforms. So again, I love how everything you're saying is like building on each other.
Yeah. And now what's coming next, to all those who are, plugged into social is now conversational. Because, and like 5 years ago, social was all about content. Like, make some content, get it up, make content, get it up. And now you see people who are influencers on social media and have built lifestyles around all the work and effort that went into recording 12 hours of content a week, getting it out there, getting it out there. Now everyone's doing it. And so what's happening is, okay, now how can I be unique?
Yeah.
I can start having conversations. I can say, comment the word 7, or I can say, DM me the word cyber. And then we go into conversations. From those conversations, you need AI, right? So what's happening is, even with a solution that we have, we can build an automation where when someone comments, even on your content, the AI knows to place a comment back, because now content has to be conversational. And that's another way, or a metric, that Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, they're all paying attention to, is your content conversation. That's another way, or key indicator, to make it unique, and that people like it. And then the next thing that's coming is communities. So now you can go out to, like, places like school.com, SKOOL.com. I don't work for them. I'm not plugged for them. I'm not an affiliate, but I notice a lot of people are now building communities around the conversations they're having on social media. And then in that community, that's where you're doing your offer stacking, promoting different solutions that you represent, or even making yourself available, if you're like me, a fractional guy, who just gives advice and the solutions. So there's a path that's been carved out, right? Where there's content, like you said, and that content moves into a conversation, and the conversation moves into a community. And then that's where you build and grow around your tribe. I mean, there's products now being launched around that methodology. Companies like you and I, who are popping up because we've had lots of conversation, we got lots of feedback. We're going, man, there's a gap. Right. And I'm not for everyone, but I'm for these people that I'm having conversations with. So it's going to make the playing field even easier when you integrate the AI into that cocktail of what we just discussed.
Right. Yeah. No, I think, man, this, again, like, just being able to leverage multiple platforms, and then having a strategy behind how you're leveraging those platforms to build those relationships, have those conversations, be a part of, an active participant in communities where you can add value, and then further use those communities to be able to do, offer stacking or offer your services. I think is again, like, just having strategy behind what we do is the key to growth, right? So as we close out, so what I ask everybody is, like, so, and we've been talking about it, and so, like, if you had one recommendation that you would have for aspiring entrepreneurs, or those that are just getting started, what one bit of advice do you think you would give to them that would have the most value, or give them the most trajectory?
Yeah, sure. The first question I always like to ask, I ask lots of questions on interviews and discovery meetings, but the one question I always start with is always the same. If you could wave a magic wand or rub a genie bottle, what would your company look like in the next year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years? Because this is probably the best time in human history to launch a business, or to even be in business, because of the access of tools that we now have within reaching distance.
Right.
And so instead of looking for a fixed solution, dream more, welcome innovation, rub the genie bottle, wave the magic wand, because who knows? Maybe we can build it.
That's right. Awesome. So I like to have a random question that is lighthearted, fun, not anything technical or work related. I like to ask a random question to my guests just to get them to for me to understand how their mind works a little bit, right? So you're wearing a SaaSpreneur shirt, and the way that you're describing new entrepreneurs is like when you try to get that vision, like, hey, if you're basically like, hey, what if you were to be your own superhero, and this was supposed to be like, hey, my business is running on all cylinders, I'm gonna be a superhero for my family, right? So if you had one superpower, what would it be?
Man, this is a good question. It's a really, I think about this every day. I kind of wonder if I do have a superpower.
Right.
um, one superpower. I think, especially when it comes to like, business and the way we work, even making it applicable now in our personal lifestyle. One superpower would be, um, I forget the name of the character, but the guy who can go into in future instances. Um, he came into the narrative for Marvel later
Yeah.
on in Marvel.
Was it Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Okay, because people typically, right? If you can look into the future and you're futurist, you're typically strange. That would be my superpower, is to continue to remain strange, to be a futurist, not to take over the world domination. It would be more efficiency. It would be more sustainability. It would mean more innovation. And so that's what I'm excited about. If I could embrace a superpower.
I love it. I love it. Now, yeah, you've added so much value today. And again, I appreciate you taking the time, dropping all the gems you did. I learned so much just by listening to you this just short amount of time. And again, I'm appreciative. I know the audience is appreciative, and they're hungry to try to figure out how they can learn more about you, follow you. So where can people go to connect with you, Rich?
Yeah, if they want to connect with my AI, okay, that's me in the digital world. I've already injected myself into the digital world. They can go to richardpeoples.com. I would give out my phone number, but I'm still training my AI to accept your text.
Yeah.
richardpeoples.com, everything's there.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, again, appreciate all the value that you've added, and love that you've been here. Love to have you back. And but until next time, again, appreciate your time, Rich. For everybody else out there, I know you got some value out of this. Keep listening, like, subscribe, and most importantly, take some time to integrate technology in your business so you can optimize things and implement some practical things to blow your business up. I've been Will Reed. I've been with Rich Peoples. I love y'all. Much success. Y'all have a good one. Until next time, y'all be easy.
Be easy.